Overcoming and becoming. Overcoming and becoming, babe. If you want it, then become it. Just let your light shine through you, baby. Who you are, live life in your truth. Sister, love, you're amazing. And life is complete once we see who we are created to be. Overcome and become. Let your light shine through you, baby. Who you are, live life in your truth. Sister, love, you're amazing. And life is complete once we see who we are created to be. We are who we are, meant to be who we are.
Welcome to Overcoming and Becoming. I am your host, Latisa B. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about overcoming making mistakes. But before I do, check out my fit. The House of Couture, she's done it again. And I also want to send out a special shout out to my sponsor, NDC Designs, taking your event from simple to elegant. We'll be right back.
If you want it, then become it.
Become a part of a speaking agency that will show you how to stay relevant and be the speaking expert in your field now. Get ready to be ahead of the pack. Join the League of Champions and get ready for a champion comeback.
Overcoming and becoming. Overcoming and becoming, babe. If you want it, then become it.
Joining me today is Dr. Charlene Lawson, chemist, personal stylist, consultant, speaker, and founder, CEO of Style Chemistry Consulting. Welcome to the show, Charlene.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you decided to join me today because today we're talking about overcoming mistakes. And I know you've had your own fair share of mistakes, as many of us has. But today, Charlene is going to give us a little bit insight into the mistake that she did and how she overcame. Charlene, can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Sure, absolutely. So I got pregnant at age 13 and became a mother at age 14. And it was a traumatizing experience.
I bet.
But I've definitely been able to overcome
Yeah.
and become who I am today.
Yeah, because you are a lot today. You're a lot today. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring you on the show, because I remember when we first met, you shared just a little bit about your journey, and I always remember that. And as I've seen you blossom over these years, I knew you were the perfect guest for the show. So when you found out you were pregnant, what was that day like? What was that moment like?
You know, it really felt like it wasn't real, you know, and I'll tell you just a little bit of background. So I was a gymnast growing up, and so I didn't really have like a regular cycle and things, and so I didn't know that I was pregnant until I was about 3 months into my pregnancy. And my mother and I found out together. My grandma's intuition was like, Charlene is sleeping a lot. She's just acting kind of crazy. I think she's pregnant. And so they bought a test. We took it, and we cried. We cried. And it really wasn't real for me until I actually saw the ultrasound, like, oh, that's a whole baby, you know? And that's when things got real.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So what did your mom, what did she say?
You know, my mom was very disappointed. And she was working 2 and 3 jobs as a single mother. And the thing about it was that I was always very smart in school, straight A student. So people thought that they didn't have to watch me. But I also matured very early. So when I was 11, I looked like I was 16. So I was getting a lot of male attention early on, and I wasn't really being watched, I would say. And then my grandmother raised me as well. And so when it all came out, you know, I think my mom, she was definitely disappointed, embarrassed,
Yes.
ashamed,
Yes.
and I was too. Being so far along in the pregnancy at 3 months, it wasn't like
Right.
we were entertaining other options. That baby had 10 toes and 10 fingers. It was coming. So we just embraced it and
Wow. So how was
moved
it
on.
going to school? Because you are this top scholar, you are a gymnast, you are visible. You couldn't just sink in the background.
no. And it was actually very traumatizing because I had bought my ultrasound to school with me. Mind you, 8th grade, middle school. And I lost it. And someone found it and turned it into the office, and then that's when it just, the word got out. I didn't plan that to happen, and everybody knew. And so walking through the halls every day with my belly getting bigger and just the stares and the whispers, and it was difficult.
Yeah. Did you cry much?
A lot. The first few months, I would just go to school, come home, go in my room and lock the door, and just really wouldn't come out. I wasn't talking very much. My mom took me to a therapist to kind of work through some of the trauma, but it was very, very difficult. And I'll tell you one thing, that one of my friends did throw me a baby shower, and no one came.
What?
And that was heartbreaking because their parents didn't want them
To
to
be associated with, like, they can get pregnant by touching you. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was a little girl, I was somewhat similar to you. I was one of those straight A students. So I really didn't get too much of the birds and the bees conversations. No, I was one that you didn't think you had to watch. I wasn't into boys either because I was not, at least I didn't feel pretty. So I didn't gravitate to boys. But when I did gravitate to a little boy, I wasn't prepared because I was the one that they didn't have to watch.
Yeah.
So being that one that they didn't have to watch, it did leave us vulnerable. It left us open, would you say? Would you agree?
Yeah, you kind of slipped through the cracks.
Right.
And then I didn't have that father figure as well. So then as you're maturing and blossoming as a young woman, and then you have that male attention, and my son's father is significantly older than I was. And that's how things happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So our advice, just because they're straight A students, they are still young girls, and they need to be mentored and they need to be guided. We have to protect our young girls and protect them and gear them for what's coming next, especially if they made it to that young womanhood section. That's an important conversation because I know when I became a young woman, I wasn't talked to. When they told me, when I learned about my cycle, it wasn't something that was like, oh, here you go.
When my mother and I had the birds and the bees conversation,
You had one of those?
I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
a little too late.
Yes. I can only imagine. And going through that as a young woman with all the male attention that's been given to these young women, because one thing I know, there's a lot of hormones in the food that our kids are eating. So if they're developing way before their time. So pay attention to your young girls. Charlene, when we come back, I want you to tell us a little bit about how the day you became a mother and how did it make you feel when the first day you held your baby in your arms. Well, we're going to go ahead and thank our sponsor for this segment, Real Champions League, the Speaking Bureau of the Future. Get listed. We'll be right back.
If you want it, then become it.
The only thing that's constant in this world is change. When you think about your most difficult change, do you get emotional? Maybe angry, sad, or frustrated? If you do, there is a high probability you have not healed the wounds of your past. I'm Latisa B, a certified grief coach, helping women to let go of the emotional pain that's been holding them hostage so they can live a healthier and happier life. To learn more, schedule a free discovery call at workwithlatisa.com.
Overcoming and becoming. Overcoming and becoming, babe. If you want it, then become it.
Welcome back to Overcoming and Becoming. If you've just tuned in, we've been talking to my guest, Dr. Charlene Lawson, and how she was going through her journey of becoming a teenage mom. Charlene, can you tell us what was it like the day you held that baby in your arms?
Ooh, child. You know, it doesn't really feel real. You look like, did I did I make this? Did I create this?
Right.
Is this, a part of me?
Right.
And my initial thoughts were just like, okay, well, my life is over now. I'm stuck to this child. And then being 14, I had stretch marks. And so it was like, okay, my body's ruined.
Never even thought about that.
No one's going to want me. And a lot of negative thoughts. It wasn't a joyous moment for me.
Yes, I can see that now being 14, because I know when I became a mom at 19. So I remember holding my baby in my arms, and I cried because I couldn't remember. I didn't believe I brought that into this world. But I was also independent in the military, had my own. So I was okay to take care of a child. But to think about it from a 14-year-old's perspective, I never even imagined it like that. What was going through your head when they gave you that baby and say, here, you're a mommy now?
It was like, redo, retake.
Like you get a second
do
chance,
over. Can I get this back?
Yeah.
And even as I was going through my pregnancy, I knew I was pregnant. When I was about 5 months and I saw that ultrasound, that's when it really hit me like, I'm actually having a whole baby. And then to actually see, and my son was a premature child as well, so he was also sick. So we were in the NICU for about a week or so, me and my mother. So that was also difficult as well, and then having to go home. The thing about with me that made me a bit unique was that my mother was like a ride or die.
Oh, right.
So, you talked about being prepared and being 19 and having your own. I had nothing. I had no job. I had no money. I had no support. The father wasn't present, so it was just me and my mother. But she really dug her heels in deep. Yeah, and, she said, okay, well, that baby's coming. It is what it is. And so we were prepared with supplies and all of that. And one thing my mom told me, the day that baby came, she said, you will not ever be able to have the excuse to say you couldn't do, you couldn't go, you couldn't be because you have this baby.
So mom was your support system?
Oh, she was my everything.
Without mom, what do you think you'd be at right now?
I'd be a statistic.
Yes.
In poverty, probably several more children. I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. Right now, I'm feeling some type of way. And Mom, I just want to say thank you for taking care of her and being by her side, because I am so thankful to have a wonderful and amazing friend like Charlene. I don't know what I'd do without her, because she has supported me when she didn't even know me.
Yeah, you're pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Latisa.
you're a mom. And I can imagine this changed her life as well, because now she started raising another child.
Yes.
Yeah, from scratch.
Yep, starting all over.
Yeah, but did she raise your child, or did she teach you how to raise your child?
Well, so in my household, it was my mother and my grandmother, and then it was me. So I had a lot of support.
Okay.
My grandmother, she also babysat kids for a living, so I kind of got lucky, right?
did,
I had
you
that
did.
built-in babysitter all the way up until college. So my mom was the financial support. My
Okay.
grandmother helped me she raised me and my son.
Okay.
And then when it came time for college, I went about an hour away to Howard University, and my son stayed home with my grandmother, and I would come home every weekend to be with him while I was in college.
Yeah. So it wasn't like you just had the baby and you gave him to your mother and grandmother to raise.
Oh, no.
They wasn't having that?
Saturday morning, my mom was like, "Where you at? Let's get it back to this house." So there was no like hanging out on the weekends in college. You know, I didn't pledge. You know, I didn't have
Yeah,
I didn't have the
normal college.
college experience. It was like
Right.
Monday through Friday you're in class, and Friday night you home to this baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I remember when I was in the military and I got deployed for 6 months, and I had to leave my son with my mom. And when I left my son with my mom, he didn't know me when I came back. Did you experience anything like that, being gone and not being there every day, where you lost a bond with him?
Yeah, so the one thing was he would always call me by my first name, Charlene. And you know what, even till this day, Leticia, me and my sons still have him calling me mom is very unusual for him because we grew up kind of, I guess, like sort of brothers and sisters, and no one else called me mom, you know. And so that was difficult for me. I felt like there was a lack of respect that was there, and no
Right.
one else enforced it either, so that made me feel even worse. And then, you know, being a child, it's not really what you say or what you think is best, it's what your mom thinks or your grandma thinks is best. So that was difficult. And then just coming home on the weekends and things not being the way that I thought they should be, but what can you
do?
really, really say?
Right, right.
That was difficult.
I can imagine. But you are this powerful, amazing woman that you are today, and you have accomplished a lot. What has been your driving force to get to that next level? To say, I'm not going to let this one mistake stop me. What was it?
You know, I've always felt like growing up that I didn't belong where I was, or that I wasn't meant to stay there. Even going through middle school, even when I had my son, you know, I was still doing gymnastics, I was still cheerleading, I was running track, I was on a step team. People in school didn't even know that I had a child. It wasn't a secret, I was just very active like everyone else, right?
Okay.
And so I've always had something in me in having the support from my mother and my family to really like live my dreams.
Yes.
That's all that I needed to just kind of keep going and to make something of myself, you know. Being a gymnast as well, the only black gymnast on a team of lots of girls, you start seeing a lifestyle that you're not used to. So I lived with my grandmother and my mother, you know, modest 3-bedroom home. Those other girls, magnificent big houses. And so I kept thinking like, well, how do I want access to those things.
All right. Well, we're going to take this quick commercial break right now, and we're going to talk about that when we come back. Before we break, I just want to thank my sponsor, Kagan Lane and Kagan Lane Photography. If you're looking for someone that's going to capture the action as it happens, catch up with him. We'll be right back.
If you want it, then become it.
Have you been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease or in chronic pain? Issues with your neck, your back, and even waking up in the morning, you just do not feel yourself. It's stopping you from daily activities that you would normally do on a regular basis. Have your doctors failed you? Are you trying not to lose hope? Your faithful appointments, you continue to keep them, and you see there's no hope in sight. Are you tired of fighting your body and ready to win this battle? It's time for you to return to fun, laughter, dancing, and family time. At JWU Holistic Healing, we help you to naturally eliminate your chronic pain so you can start enjoying life the way you want to. For more information, go to eliminatemychronicpain.com and schedule a free discovery call.
Coming and becoming, overcoming and becoming, babe. If you want it, then become.
Welcome back to Overcoming and Becoming. If you have just tuned in, we have been talking to my guest, Dr. Charlene Lawson, as she shared with us how she became Dr. Charlene Lawson. And Charlene, before when we was leaving the break, you was just telling us how you were able to do a lot of the things that you were doing, becoming into this woman. Can you just go ahead and finish that train of thought?
Sure. So I was talking about being a gymnast and being exposed to a different lifestyle
Yes.
through the other gymnasts who were not young Black women like myself. And so I just thought like, okay, I want to have those things. And so what I knew was watching my mother work, I was like, okay, I need to go get an education and get a job. I knew the basics.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of what got me going and what motivated me. I was always into fashion. I love shopping. And my mom would always say, you have champagne taste and bare pockets. So I knew I had to make some money, that's really kind of how I got going with things, you know.
Right. I'm so thankful you didn't allow your mistake to define you. And what I would like to ask you right now is if you can go back to 13-year-old Charlene, and that older gentleman approached you in the mindset that you were in, what would you tell her right now? What would you tell her?
I would tell her that your worth is not in a man. And to
It's okay. It's okay. What would she need to hear to know that her worth is not in a man? Because the reason why I'm asking you this, because there is some young woman that's sitting there with her mother right now watching this, and maybe she hasn't received the birds and the bees conversation yet. Maybe her mother is uncomfortable having that conversation, and social media is embedding these images in her head, and it's easier to get to our young girls nowadays. Just thinking it from that, and she sees you, and this older gentleman approached her. What would you tell her? Because we want to save her. We want to save her.
I would tell her that your worth is not in a man and not between your legs either. That you are so much more than that, and to save yourself for marriage. That's what I would tell her.
Yes, yes. Because once you start having sex, that's a whole nother dimension of being a woman. Because without it, you can just see a person for who they are. And once sex gets involved, you got a whole lot of emotions that start clouding your decisions. And even as a grown woman, I had that exact same experience. When you have sex early in a relationship, it clouds your decisions and you don't see things clearly anymore. Would you agree with that?
I agree, and I would say that, you feel sometimes that you have to have sex to get love or to get attention, and that's just not the case. So you want a man to earn your love and earn your respect, and that's not going to be through sex.
Right. Because sex, it will get old. And when he started sex with you,
on to the next one.
On to the next one. Just like that. Right. So let me ask another question.
Yeah.
For a mother who has a child that is in this same situation, and she's struggling right now with how do she move forward, because now she has to become a mother again when she's pretty much almost done mothering when you become a teenager. You're trying to transition now to, okay, the hard part is done. I'm getting ready to transition to the advisor stage. And now this happens. Because having a strong support system was a fundamental for you becoming. Would you like to share some words with a mother who may be in your mother's same shoes?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing is that what's done is done. So if that baby's coming, and so I just encourage you to support your daughter the best way that you can, to love on her and to love on that baby, and not to dwell on those past mistakes, to focus on the future and raising that child and being a great grandmother. You know, there is joy that comes with it. You know, there's pros and cons to having a child early from my experience.
Oh,
it's not all bad.
I agree with you,
You know?
having the child early. I always say having the child at 19 was like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I got to grow up with my children, but then I had to give up a lot of my young adult life. But once I became 40, my kids are basically grown. They didn't have that, and I'm out there having fun. And guess what? I got money now at 40. I didn't have no money at 19.
Right.
The military
exactly.
don't pay nothing, y'all. Don't think, look, my family thought I was like no, the military don't pay nothing. I was just a little bit over welfare. They just gave me free housing. And that's on the real. With having a child, raising a child, and everything that comes along with it, I made too much money for food stamps and not enough money, and not enough money to really be able to pour into myself and my child.
Right, absolutely. And you know, I would also say that if your daughter is pregnant, therapy is great. You know, to sit down, okay, well, how did this happen? To really dig down and speak with her about, you know, what is she feeling?
Right.
What is she going through, and going through that process with her? And the time flies, you know. My son's 20 years old. He's a junior in college now.
Wow.
So the time flies. So enjoy it.
Right. And even in therapy, how about what she was feeling to feel that she had to go that route?
Exactly.
You know, not just the experience of what's going on right now. What foundation or what environment, what is she thinking, so that you can help her to not make the same mistake going forward? Because I've known some people that had a baby young and turned around and had another baby because she was not educated. We did not sit down and understand what was it that she was truly lacking, so she didn't make that same mistake again.
Exactly. That's very, very important.
Yeah. So Charlene, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, but how can someone reach out to you if they want to learn more about Dr. Charlene Lawson and what she does at Style Chemistry?
Absolutely. You can follow me on social media at Style Chemistry Consulting, or you can shoot me an email at charlene@stylechemistryconsulting.com.
Thank you, Charlene. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. And right now, I just want to thank my sponsor for this segment, JWU Holistic Healing. They will help you eliminate that chronic pain within 3 months. We'll be right back.
If you want it, then become it.
The only thing that's constant in this world is change. When you think about your most difficult change, do you get emotional? Maybe angry, sad, or frustrated? If you do, there's a high probability you have not healed the wounds of your past. I'm Latisa B, a certified grief coach, helping women to let go of the emotional pain that's been holding them hostage so they can live a healthier and happier life. To learn more, schedule a free discovery call at workwithlatisa.com.
Become a part of a speaking agency that will show you how to stay relevant and be the speaking expert in your field now. Get ready to be ahead of the pack. Join the League of Champions and get ready for a champion comeback.
Overcoming and becoming. Overcoming and becoming, babe. If you want it, then become it.
Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to today's show. If you didn't take but one thing away from the show today, just know you are not your mistake. Remember, no matter what happens in life, there is always a life after. You just have to choose it. See you next time.
If you want it, then become it. Just let